asking questions because most people like you don't feel seen or heard. So I want you to be sensitive to that. Not just sensitive towards how you're feeling at the moment. I want you to be sensitive to the fact that they don't emote the exact same way that you do, and they don't emote that much at all. But a lot of people really are hurting. And so just asking them some questions about how their day is going and their family and what their dreams or aspirations are. Sometimes, it's like, well, what type of hobbies do you have? Are you a gamer? Are you this? Again. So, sometimes I get asked about my line art. It's not really line art, it's just ink. And they ask about that, like, how did you get so good at that? Now, I think genuinely, I don't know what they're talking about, but I'm not going to call them a bunch of liars. So therefore, here is how I make line art. Are you ready? Line art, in terms of my inking, making it look nice and smooth and everything, it is simply holding the pen the way that feels most comfortable to you, and you're more or less kind of dragging, like, if you're dragging the pen somewhere in the direction, you have to kind of keep that in mind. It's about direction and focus. So if you're going to do a line from here to here, I take my finger and use it as almost like a guide against the paper itself. And then I just be like, okay, I want to go here. So therefore, I don't take my pen and then drag it all the way over here. I focus in on this point right here, and the two meet each other. So you see that? It's not that perfect, But again, you'll get better as you move along. So I'm just moving it over here, because what ends up happening a lot of times is that you don't know where you're going, so you don't know how to pull something down. So that is how that's done. Now then, that's the end of the video, right? That's how you do it. That's how you do a thing. Well, that's how I do the thing, but that's not the reason why you're not gonna do this, right? Because the real answer is actually practice, right? It's practice, and I need plenty of it. I think this stuff is trash, right? But the real thing is practice. That's going to be the answer of, how did you get so good at fill in the blank? Practice. That's exactly what it is. Now, how come you don't want to practice, and how come you want it right now? And the reason why you want it right now is probably because of this one word right here that is synonymous with artists worldwide. Are you ready for the one word? Here we go. Desperation, right? Desperation. Desperation is something that you don't know is controlling a lot of your lives. You don't know how bad it actually is, but you're always in this constant flux of desperation. Why? Because a lot of you all are weird. Me too. A lot of y'all are weird, like me, right? I get it. We get so messed up by something that seems so minuscule to other people. We just get messed up by it. We're just like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened, And someone's looking at us kind of like, Negro, what's wrong with you? And so what ends up happening is that instead of going through the trouble of something, we want to go around it. And then we want to go around it again. But the only way forward is actually to go through the trouble. But we don't want to do that. Why? Because it hurts so bad. And we're so in tune with something in our minds and our hearts that we just can't even take it. And we're told all the time that we're crazy because we feel this way. But guess what? We know it's real. We feel it. It's very intense, isn't it? Right? So my thing is this. What I believe that people who are sensitive for a specific reason, right? I think that I've talked about this on one of my other videos, but we talk about how the reason why I think that you're sensitive is because an artist is getting access and has more in alignment with the spirit world, right? There's like a little bit of mingling between, the emotions and the spirit, right? And so because of that, we feel everything all the time, right? So we're desperate to get good right now, because the idea is that if I get good right now, if I learn this skill, then that means that my artwork will improve, and therefore when my artwork improves, then I'll improve. And once I improve, I can make some money, and then once I make some money, then I'll be okay. Desperate to get ahead quickly. All right? But because you're so sensitive, it's hard for you to do simple things like hold a job sometimes, not think that everyone's talking about you, right? Not sit there and think about, intermission. All right, not talk about you all the time, just simple stuff that most people don't seem to have a problem with at all. Get up, go to work, come home, feed family, do things, and then that be that. And that sounds like an actual hell to you. So, and I'm not saying that this is everybody. I'm not saying this is everybody. But this is something that artists kind of struggle with too. Is that idea, because we're so visual, we're so tuned into something that it's hard for us to imagine not being involved in that thing. And that thing is where our art comes out of. Those are the realms that we kind of draw from. And so we're drawing from something, and we don't know what it quite is, but we know that it's real. And so then that becomes our reality. And so that's all that we see. So when you tell me to go back and forth to a 9 to 5, it's kind of like, why? I see something different. I see something extraordinary out there. So artists. You're in this moment of desperation because of the inconsistency of what's going on in this world. Can't handle this, basically can't handle hardly nothing. Right? Let me give you a few hints though. Let me give you a few things to think about. This is all I want you to think about. I want you to reconsider something that's very, very fundamental. Right? Something very, very fundamental. I want you to consider the word. Now, I believe the word is Jesus, but I want to consider the word as an idea. As an idea. I want you to consider the word. And the reason why I want you to consider the word is because of this. If you know how to talk to people, this won't be happening like it used to. If you know how to talk to people, this won't be happening as much. There are books about how to talk to people. One called How to Win Friends and Influence People. There's tons of books. Just look up online. I'm not going to list them all, what I'm saying? Like, really do that. And begin to try that on a few of your friends. Here's a big hint right here. Questions. You ask questions. If you ask questions, you're going to know how the conversation is going to go, because you're the one controlling it at that point in time. He or she that asks questions is the one who's going to be controlling the conversation. And you're finding out more about people. And a lot of us, we don't have enough information to make a judgment about the person that we're talking to. And so therefore, they're like this mystery box. We're kind of like, oh God, what do I say here? What do I say here? If you ask them some questions about their life, about what's going on with them, then you'll have that information. And once you have that information, you'll be able to move alongside with them. You'll be able to kind of predict how they think and know how they think. And that's cool, And you don't have to be this big outgoing person and blah, blah, blah. You don't have to do all that. You don't have to be like me. Right? You don't have to do all that. But this is a big part of it right here. It's just questions. Sometimes you have to get out of the art world and get into someone else's world a little bit. Just ask them questions. Because most people, like you, don't feel seen or heard. So I want you to be sensitive to that. Not just sensitive towards how you're feeling at the moment. I want you to be sensitive to the fact that they don't emote the exact same way as you do, and they don't emote that much at all. But a lot of people really are hurting. And so just asking them some questions about how their day is going and their family and what their dreams or aspirations are. Sometimes, it's like, well, what type of hobbies do you have? Are you a gamer? Are you this? And like bring up those things in conversations, or just something to where someone feels heard and can talk about themselves for a little bit. Because no one cares. Because we're in this capitalistic society here in the States, at least, where it was kind of like, if you're not making money with me, get out of my way. So it's good to ask some questions sometimes. This is a big one right here. Or, here's a big one. Anxiety. Anxiety. Anxiety happens a lot of times because you are hoping, but because you're desperate, you never actually get here. You are hoping that this bad outcome never happens. But because you don't know how to use your words properly, not everybody, but because you don't know how to use your words properly, you don't know how to communicate, get out of your world and go into someone else's world a little bit, because you don't know how to do that properly. You're like, I hope this doesn't happen. I hope this doesn't happen. I hope this doesn't happen. But because you're desperate, you're like, well, how do I make a plan? I don't know what to do. 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 So you're freaking out. And because you can form no plan, because anxiety happens when there's no plan for an undesired outcome. There's no plan for it. You're just going to hope it doesn't happen. And that hoping that doesn't happen that way, it's what's driving you crazy. So because you're desperate to get out of these situations and you don't feel as though you have any control over your life whatsoever, because you haven't learned about the power of your own words and how that actually means something in this world, in this realm, that you just feel stuck. And so therefore you never get past the anxiety spot, or you just kind of falls apart. Well, this is the way I am. Maybe that's not true. I've got anxiety medication. I'm sure you do. They'll give you medication for literally everything because they're trying to make money off of you. I'm trying to get you out of this stuff right here so that you can actually have a life and get out of this crap right here. So you can draw and create and do all the cool stuff that you want to do, because you know this as well as I do. A lot of people on the radio, a lot of people who are in some of these galleries out here, a lot of people who are successful, the only reason why they're as successful as they are is because they know how to talk and you don't. Am I being real? They don't know how to talk and you don't. They're not even better than some of y'all. Some of y'all are way colder than some of these guys out here. These guys and gals out here. Some of y'all are dope. And yet they're out there and you're here. Why? They know how to talk. They know how to see and ask questions and see what the gallery owner is trying to get at, what he wants, what he or she wants in terms of that gallery. They're trying to, so they're asking the questions in order to figure out, how can I get in the gallery? So this is what the gallery owner wants. They want these type of pieces. And so therefore, instead of you giving the pieces that you think is awesome or whatever it is, they're looking for some specific pieces. You can go ahead and go home and draw those pieces or paint those pieces or whatever you're doing, and then be like, hey, I get the skill. I'm going to assume you get the skill. Get the skill, you went ahead and talked to them. You said, I want these kind of pieces in this art gallery. And so because you've given them the thing that the gallery owner wanted, you're in the gallery. How did that happen? Words, questions. What happens if, well, ask some more questions. Like, okay, if I do this, and how do you feel about this, sir or ma'am? Ma'am, how do I this, and this, and this, and this, and this? And then once you get the information, okay, well, now I have a plan. And then there's an alteration to the plan. Don't freak out. Decide. Another thing right here. Decide. You know what decision is? It's actually a word that means to cut off the other possibilities. Cut it off. Decide. Why? Because there's been times when you had no money, and even in your desperation, you were freaking out about something, and you decided that you were going to go to that concert. You had no money, or you were going to buy that video game. You had no money, yet you were going to. I've had part-time, freshly married, both of us part-time, no money, can of Merc, pound of Merc, jelly, no syrup. Okay, anyway, so we had no money. Street Fighter 4 was coming out. And so therefore, me being a long-term fan since 1991, been a huge Street Fighter fan, there was no way that I was going to go without Street Fighter 4. So all of a sudden, I realized that I had a console. I didn't even have a next-gen console at that point. I didn't have a 360. I only had PS2. I didn't have a 360. I did not have a P3. Didn't have any of that. But because I decided that I was going to get it, a little bit wheeling and dealing, and I figured it out. You've done that before. All you got to do is apply it to this, to this, to this. Decide. Scripture talks about that too. Choose you this day. You're going to decide for the Lord or not. Now, we'll get there eventually. Glory be to God. Anyway, so deciding. You don't have to be anxious about everything all the time. You just got to decide. And your brain will go on autopilot. Doesn't that sound good? Not to be thinking all the time. Your brain will go on autopilot and you'll figure out what to do. On autopilot. It's crazy good. Crazy good. So then, you don't want to take the time to learn how to draw a line because you're down bad most of the time. But if you can do these things right here, the time's going to pass anyway. But it's because you need it right now, you don't want to learn how to do the thing and practice and do the things. But if you can not have your life be on fire by doing these things right here, you'll be willing to learn and be willing to practice and be willing to get into it. So some of y'all's lives are on fire. You need to go ahead and get into this right here. Right? Talk to people. They're just as afraid as you are of them. They want to be acknowledged also. They want to feel a little bit of love that someone is actually hearing them and listening to them and talking to them also. And maybe, just maybe, they'll actually ask some things about you too. Questions. Anxiety. You don't know how to have anxiety. You just have to have a plan. But in order for you to have a plan, you got to decide. And once the decision is made, after that, the plan begins to formulate automatically. So once you get out of the desperation, after that, you'll be just fine. All right, that's my time. I love y'all very much. I'll catch you in the remix. Deuces.